Let's make some noise. Come on.
Thank you once again, Nick Foles. And welcome back, folks. Yes, indeed. Let's make some noise. Yeah. Final word, Matty B is on the air. If you don't need anything more to get you hyped just to see my show and that awesome theme music, you got Nick Foles pumping you up there to get you ready for another rousing edition and episode of the Final Word with Matty B here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network with your boy Matty B on the call. And yeah, Phillies, baby, 6-4 winners. Come from behind win all night long, battling back, using all fields to do it, home run included, but that's okay because when you're using everything, this is what you get. Christopher Sanchez, another strikeout-filled afternoon or evening, 12 tonight, I believe it was. Yeah, 12 strikeouts, 96 pitches for 6 1/3. Again, you can't sell me on that being efficient, but I'll take it. And they survive with the 6-4 win, even though Ryan Kirkering came in and struggled a little bit in his opportunity that he got in the 6th inning. So we can rag on Kirkering all you want, but what's he doing pitching that early in the game? So Rob Thompson almost choked this one away, but the bats were there, using all fields, as I said, to power themselves to a 6-4 win. And we'll continue the conversation about that if you like. It's so eloquently started on the Fight's Final, and continue the Phillies talk. Absolutely. Also tonight, though, I want to continue on with the surface of scratched that we did last night, and that is of the Philadelphia Eagles, as we are literally, we're counting the days at this point to the start of the 2025 season, and the question still remains for me, and I'm going to go into this kind of on a different level this year. I'm not going to take my usual doom and gloom. I'm not. I'm going to stay nice and neutral. But I want to know from the assembled people out there, is the expectation of this team, first of all, I want to establish what the expectation of the Philadelphia Eagles is in 2025. And I think I speak for everybody when I say it's to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Is that the consensus expectation in 2025? And if that is the reality of what the Eagles did or did not do in the offseason going to meet that expectation? So that is going to be the main meat of tonight's show. But, of course, we'll talk about anything you want. We have our usual suspect segments, the Day in Philadelphia Sports History, the Of the Night, and your card review as well. All that rolled into a nice little bow here on the Final Word with Matty B on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. And we're already getting some people kind of chiming in. Joe House's great win. It was. They're all great wins. Joe, how many times do we got to go down this road? What's up, Ricky? How you doing, man? Great win indeed. But again, aren't they all great wins? Before we get into the show, though, I do want to remind you, those watching, that we are chock full of Philadelphia sports entertainment these days. And let's kind of go over them a few times. Let's just bring some of them to bear here. Finally, after much anticipation and putting it off and not having the time to do it, we've landed on a 24-25 season review show of your Philadelphia Flyers. Only, 4 months after the season ended. Listen, we are still technically in the NHL offseason. Yes, I know. We're about a few weeks away from the start of training camp, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to get it in under the wire. And you know what? It kind of works out because we can get this one done. And then right after we do this, we'll get right into the season preview episode of the Clear the Ice show, which will come sometime in like late September, early October before the season actually starts. But we're going to finally wrap a bow around the 24-25 season with our review show on Sunday, this coming Sunday, August 24th at 7 p.m. live and direct. Me and Mike Laro has agreed to do it. The others are welcome to jump on, but it'll be me and Mike at a very minimum. So make sure you're tuned in for that program because we're looking forward to finally turning the page on the 24-25 Flyers. We're the last ones to do it. That's got to count for something. And then on Friday night, we got your Birds Fix covered. The Birds Flyby will be on the air doing the season preseason finale episode, week 3, Eagles Jets. That's a Meadowlands game, right? That's not at the link, correct? Yeah, it's on the Meadowlands. So the obligatory Eagles Jets game, preseason wise, will end the season. Will end preseason this year, thankfully, mercifully, and we'll have you covered for that on Friday night at some point after the game. Shows that are upcoming Sunday or Saturday, August 30th. Make sure you're tuned into the Happy Valley Huddle. We're going to dip our toes into the Penn State water as we're going to bring you a Penn State postgame show starting on week 1, or that's week 1. Next week or Thursday is week 0. Is that what they unofficially call Thursday? We got like 5 games happening this weekend as college football will kick off this weekend. This weekend coming up. Penn State will get it on the back end of week 1 or the week 1, whatever you guys are calling this thing, week 1A, 1B, week 0, week 1. But Penn State will be playing the University of Nevada, the Wolfpack, on Saturday, August 30th. The number 2 ranked, AP number 2 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions will kick off their 25 season. Hopefully, as I said last night, with expectations of their own to advance beyond the BCS semifinal into the final. Again, I said this last night. I was praying to God to see a Penn State-Ohio State national championship game. And I still hold out that would be the greatest game ever. And maybe that's the game they finally break their streak against Ohio State. I don't know. But we're going to start the journey to that game on Saturday, August 30th. Michael Lauro will be the host of the Happy Valley Huddle. Week 1 edition, Penn State versus Nevada. So make sure you're tuned in. And then on September 2nd, a new date and time. Well, not a new time, but a new date. We had to flex that thing a little bit out to the right in order to accommodate Kyle Quinn in his fantasy draft. I can't make this stuff up. But the season 6 premiere of the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will premiere on Tuesday, September the 2nd at 7 p.m. And that's going to be an episode you can't miss. Whenever we kick off a season of the Birds Blast, we always do it with a look around the NFL first. And then in this case, we're going to go right into the Eagles-Cowboy game. So, you're going to want to be there for that. As me and Kyle will get season 6 of the Birds Blast underway on Tuesday, September the 2nd. And then, of course, we got you covered on Thursday, September 4th, Eagles-Cowboy postgame, as the Eagles will get the season going. So make sure you're tuned in for that game and every other Birds Blast, or not Birds Blast, but Birds Flyby that we're going to do after every Eagles postgame show. Steve Fuentes will be the primary host of that program, but there's going to be times where he's not there. But it will come at some point with somebody hosting. I promise you that. I'm giving you my solemn word. And then all the other great programming here on the network, the P&M and the AM program on every Sunday morning, the Attacking Third every Thursday at 9, and then the flagship show. That's right, baby. The Final Word with MattyB every Tuesday or Sunday through Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe sometimes earlier, maybe sometimes later because of post-game obligations. And tomorrow, the Phillies will go for that series sweep against the Seattle Mariners, and I will be the one on the call. Now, unfortunately for me, I won't be around at 4 o'clock when this game ends. I'll be doing something else. So we're going to do one of those better late than never Fighting's final tomorrow, probably around, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock tomorrow night. It'll be in lieu of the Final Word. I'm not doing a Final Word tomorrow night. It'll have to be this. I could not finagle left or right what I have to do tomorrow, so it will have to be later tomorrow night. I apologize, but I've been apologizing for the last 3 months for not coming on when I'm supposed to, so this should be something that's not new. So you guys will be all right. So make sure you're tuned in, though, tomorrow, as I will be the one, hopefully, carrying you the series sweep of the Phillies Mariners tomorrow afternoon at the bank. 1 p.m. start, one of those glorious business person specials. Joe says, hey, Matt, remember some guy named Mickey saying the Seattle Mariners were going to sweep the Phillies? I do remember saying it. Mickey Delaney, wasn't it? He came on here and said that. Listen, I got to tip the cap here. Again, this to me is no secret, Joe. And I've said this all season long after bashing them. I've always said, listen, it's always going to be about the offense. The offense is going to carry this team to victory, or it's going to let them down in defeat. And lately, over the last 3 games at least, the offense has been doing what it has to do. And you see the beautiful product that it is when it's working all together. Tonight, you got JT Realmuto coming up big. You got Bryce Harper not having what you would call a Bryce Harper night, but he had a sack fly. Man, I will take sacrifice flies. When has sacrifice flies become a 4-letter word in baseball? I will take them any day of the week because that's a productive at bat. You got to run in, or I'll even take a sacrifice where you move somebody over. I'll take that, man. Those are productive at bats. They keep the inning going. They put runners in scoring position. They drive runs home. It's not rocket science, folks. It doesn't have to be 3-run home runs every time you step up there. I don't care if you just drive in, run. You keep the train moving, keep that carousel moving. And Bryce Harper did not have a sexy night at the dish. He didn't. But he had a productive night because he had an RBI. And we needed that RBI, it turned out. So if it's all working, Steve or Joe, sorry, it's always been if it's all working. If it's all working, it's a lovely, beautiful thing. And there's not many teams out there that can stop them. The problem has been it just hasn't worked consistently enough for my liking. And it should be for your liking too, in terms of the fact that we've regressed in all levels since getting to the World Series in 2022. That's still a image and a thought harbored in the back of my mind that we're not going to be able to come through when we have to, October. So that's kind of what I have to sort of gravitate towards, because that's what it all means right now. It's October or bust at this point. 20 games now over 500, 26 series wins for the Phillies in 2025. They are one series win away from tying their cumulative series win record from 2024. So that is definitely a major positive step in the right direction, that this season might have been more productive than I gave it credit for. But all that is for naught if we go into October and we stumble around on ourselves and we're trying to constantly hit home runs. But when it works, and when they're adhering to the baseball principles and principles of baseball that were there long before these players played it, and that are going to be there long after they play it, regardless of what coaches are teaching about exit velocity and lift and angle and all that nonsense, the primary principles of this game will never change. You move runners along, you use all fields, you make contact with the baseball, you're going to win more than you lose. I don't care what analytics are going to taint the game and what's the next big thing. And honestly, from a youth umpire's standpoint, and that's what I am. I do all kinds of levels of youth from Division II college all the way down begrudgingly to Little League. I hate doing Little League games, but I do them for the scratch. They're always cash games, so that's always a good thing. But from my standpoint, watching how some of these players are being coached lately, it seems like, especially on the actual professional, not daddy coach is daddy coach, and he's completely out there. But from a coach's standpoint, the real coaches out there, they're getting back to more of the fundamental way of baseball. Strikeouts are now becoming an issue again. There was a good swath of time where coaches didn't care how much struck out. And I know it's still sort of the flavor in the MLB, but now at the lower levels, coaches are starting to get upset now with strikeouts because they want players to make contact with the baseball. So it seems like it's kind of the pendulum is swinging back the other way now a little bit, and maybe they can marry the new way of analytic and the old way of baseball fundamentals and come up with a better product at the major league level, because that's what it's all feeding into that anyway. But if it does, if you can establish those fundamentals, and if you can actually move runners along and situationally hit, take a sacrifice fly when you want to hit a 3-run homer. I get that. I understand that, but I'm okay with you driving a sac fly. I have heard the word sacrifice fly and the Phillies married together more in the last week than I have heard it all season long. And you can take that to the bank. And it's a beautiful thing, because maybe it's starting to click. Maybe it's starting to sink in. Maybe somebody is starting to get the word out around the clubhouse. Before, and again, I'm going to keep this stat starting in 2026. I'm going to keep it. How many sacrifice flies a game that the Phillies are executing? I didn't keep the stat, and I'm sure I could go and look for it and tell you what it is, but it's been a minuscule number, because I have not read it. I have not heard it, but over the last week, I have heard it and read it a lot. And that's a positive way to look at what the Phillies are doing at the dish, when it comes to batting. So I'm down with it, man. I love to run stuff for save opportunities. Yeah. But you know what? They are kind of getting the barrel of the bat around on him. Have you noticed that? And again, I guess I'm kind of being a little bit of a nitpicking here, but they are, that game where he was throwing 103.3 and no one was catching that. But now they're catching the ball a little bit. They're not doing much with it, but they are catching the ball a little bit. And I have noticed that, and you have too. Everybody notices that. But you're right. Duran, the Duran thing has worked out. And it's a great thing if we're up 2-1, 8-1, 7-6, 8-7. Turn that ball over to the ninth inning. It's almost like automatic. And that's what you also need in October as well. So absolutely good stuff. Ricky Deal says, go Phillies. Didn't you already say that? Sir Rob Thompson was asked about Wheeler today, and he said he brought his glove to the hospital and played catch with the doctors. Yeah. I didn't hear that. Really? Is that what he said? Good for Zach Wheeler. And yes, he did have a procedure to remove the blood clot. Hopefully now it's all about rehab. And, no expected timeline, which I understand that. And, to sit here and say that he's going to be helpful at all for the regular season is no, that's not going to happen. But I'm still going to hold out hope because we really need him in the postseason. I ain't going to lie. I mean, there's no way getting around that. I'm glad that he had the procedure done and it seems like he's okay. But from a baseball standpoint, we need him in October. Let's not sugarcoat that. Let's not try to be PC about that. We need him in October. If we're going to win a World Series, it has to be with Zach Wheeler. Especially old Aaronola is still hanging out there. So I need to have me some Zach Wheeler. I need to have me some Zach Wheeler in the postseason in order for this thing to truly make sense to me. But no, great news that he got the procedure done and everything seems to be okay. Thank you, JT, today. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, JT had a good day. And he also had another catcher's obstruction today. You guys see that, right? Early in the game. Another catcher's obstruction where the catcher got his glove there in the way of the swing. They challenged it. How did the umpire miss that, man? I think it was obvious as hell. But that's always good, too. How many times have the Phillies benefited from the catcher's obstructions? Again, it's like an all-time, like 2 or 3 this year. And I don't remember any years past it being this much. Bad catching fundamentals. That's what that is. All in all, Phillies win 6-4. And again, we'll continue the conversation because I do want to point out a few things about that game tonight. And again, the main topic tonight is Birds related. What are the Birds? What is the Philadelphia Eagle fan base, homer and non-homer alike? What is the expectations of the 25 Philadelphia Eagles? Is it safe to say that it's Super Bowl or bust yet again? And is the reality of what this team did in the offseason, or maybe did not do, is that reality matching up with the expectation? And again, if people's expectations are not to go back and win another Super Bowl, we can also bring that point to bear as well. I'm not saying it has to be. I don't know anybody else. I mean, it is, right? I mean, can I honestly say that that's the expectation, is that the Eagles are going to go back and win another Super Bowl, and then anything less than that will be considered a failure? And does the reality of that expectation match right now with this team? And again, it's speculative because we're not even out of the preseason yet. But based on what you've seen, which is not much, especially from the starters, it's not at all. And what what it takes to get to a Super Bowl. And that's going to be the first point I'm going to bring up about this when we get to this topic is the fact that there's a lot of Eagle fans out there that think that they're just going to roll into 2024 part 2. Like all of a sudden we're just going to pick up where we left off. And I don't know if we did not learn our lessons from 2018, because I remember 2018 like the back of my hand. I remember especially that opening game against the Falcons in 2018. I purely expected the Eagles to just start clicking on all cylinders because literally it was the same team. I mean, you had Nick Foles, the quarterback, and I watched the Eagles clunk out of the gates in that game and barely hang on to win that thing. And then, of course, 2018 became what it was. And it was probably by week 4. So they beat the Falcons in week 1. They lost to Tampa in week 2, and they beat the Colts in Carson Wentz return in week 3. Probably by week 4, I realized this ain't 2017 anymore. And we literally had the same team that we left, we walked off the field in Minnesota with at Super Bowl 52. That's when it dawned on me that this wasn't 2017 anymore, and that we're in for a dogfight of trying to repeat. And of course, they did not repeat. So when we get to the conversation, the first thing I want to bring to bear is the expectation, one, that this is a totally new season and not part 2 of 2024. And then we'll get deeper as we move. So that's going to be the main topic tonight. Duran, we need him in the postseason. Yeah, we'll be there. Phillies gained ground today between two. Brewers lost 2 games. Today. So Joe, are you number 1 overall seed or bust? I don't care about the 1 overall. I just want the division. I want that first round bye. I think we're going to need it, and so you can get the 1 or the 2, right? Brewers don't have the best record in the National League, do they? I ain't even paying attention to that. We don't need Duran to pitch that fast because we don't want to lose him. Well, I mean, listen, Star Wars, I'll if the man can hit 103.3, I want him to throw 103.3. Come on, man. Absolutely. But I hear what you're saying. I want home field advantage. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all good. We didn't have home field advantage in 2022. We did pretty damn good. I am frozen. Am I frozen? Can you guys see me? Hello? Am I there? Am I back? I think I'm back. Having some internet problems tonight. Weird weather where I'm at, so bear with me. But if I'm not back, somebody tell me you can see me moving around. But let's get it going. Let's strap it in, strap it up, strap it on. Keep your head, hands, and feet inside the car at all times. And let's start our night off with our day in Philadelphia sports history. We have a 2 for tonight. I couldn't decide which one I wanted to go with, so I'm going to go with both of them. The first one is 2006. And it's going, and basically these are both Phillies points and both Phillies moments in Phillies sports history. And they center around older players. And with the David Robertson performance tonight, I wasn't feeling it, bringing them back for a 3rd time. I wasn't. And I was really concerned that this was going to be the crescendo of our trade deadline before they pulled off the other moves. But I kept asking myself, why do we need a 40-year-old pitcher? Right? Why do we? Is this really what's going to put us over the edge in 2025? And then I ran into these 2 nuggets, and the first one specifically. So in 2006, Jamie Moyer, a native of Sellersville, PA, was acquired from the Seattle Mariners on this date back in 2006. 43 Moyer was at the time. So that meant in 2008, when he played an extremely pivotal role in that World Series, the man was 45 years old. Did he hit a home run in one of the games too? And I've been on record before by saying this: if Jamie Moyer is not acquired, and actually Joe Blanton too, I don't know if we win 08. I really don't. A 45-year-old man who had been pitching in Major League Baseball for over 20 years was a pivotal piece in helping us win a World Series in 2008. And he was acquired on this date back in 2006. So a really good trade that may not have seemed like it was going to yield any sort of fruit then, but 2 years later, it certainly did. And the second Phillies point happened back on 2015. On the 8th month anniversary of the trade that sent shortstop Jimmy Rollins to the Dodgers, the Phillies dealt J-Roll's long-time double play partner, Chase Utley. So today, back in 2015, was the day the Phillies traded Chase Utley to the Dodgers. What can you say about both of them? And what can you say about that era of Phillies baseball? And also, what can you say about how the post era was handled, holding on to players too long, making some really bad trades? Thank you, Ruben Amaro Jr. That really kind of put this goddamn franchise back, really set us back into some dark days from 2013 up to 2018. It was really mismanagement on all levels. But on this day, Chase Utley was traded. They were probably the best middle infield combo in Phillies team history. I think that's an easy one. They played together from 03 to 14. Rollins leads all Phillies shortstops in WAR with a 46.1, and Utley leads all Phillies second basemen with a 65.1. And he trails Mike Schmidt only at 106.5 for the top spot in franchise history. The Phillies received outfielder Darryl Sweeney and pitcher John Ritchie in the deal. Sweeney was 24, batted just 176 in 37 games for the Phillies in 2015. So, again, dark day. It was a dark day when they traded Rollins, and it was an even darker day when they traded Chase Utley, arguably the best second baseman in Phillies history. And, I'm going to put him up there, top 5 in MLB history. The only thing that keeps me really with going overboard with that MLB one is that his career just didn't last long enough. But if 11 and 26 are not the next 2 numbers retired by this franchise, there's an act of criminality going on. And I know what their unwritten rule is about. They don't like to retire numbers unless you're retired or you're in the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think that's a ridiculous rule. Has anybody? No one's worn 11 or 26 since they left. No one's ever going to wear it again, along with number 6. Why are you waiting for some national recognition? Why can't you just recognize the fact that these 2 individuals and Ryan Howard's never getting into the Hall of Fame. He's just not. I honestly think Utley and Rollins, they got a better shot of getting in than Howard did. And I think one of them is going to get in. I don't know if both get in. Again, Utley, the career just didn't last long enough, and it didn't have, he didn't really have much hardware other than the Gold Gloves. He didn't win the MVP. He is a world champion, but that's a 2-time world champion. Didn't he win it with the Dodgers too? I don't know if Utley has enough to go into the Hall of Fame. Rollins, I think, does. So I think one of the 2 will get into the Hall of Fame. But that to me should have no bearing on what the Phillies do with their numbers. Absolutely no bearing. And someone we need as a fan base, and I need your help on this. There needs to start a writing petition campaign to John Middleton to retire 11 and 26, regardless of what their Hall of Fame fate might be, because they are 2 of the most influential players in Phillies team history, and they need to get recognized in their proper places with their numbers hanging out there next to Mike Schmidt and next to Roy Halladay and all that. And they need to have that recognition done sooner than later. And then, yes, also Ryan Howard for what he contributed in a very short period of time for the Phillies. But in MattyB's top, my all-time Phillies roster, I couldn't decide whether I was going to go with Howard or Rose at first, so I went both of them. So they need to retire Utley and Rollins. But on this night, back in 2006, Jamie Moyer was acquired from the Seattle Mariners, and in 2015, Chase Utley was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And there you go. There's your day in Philadelphia sports history. Brought to you by the fine folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, purveyors of such great fine programming. And I'm going to plug it again as the Clear the Ice Flyers 2024-25 season review show this Sunday night at 7 p.m., August the 24th. Be there or be square. We're finally going to wrap a bow around the Flyers season. Only 4 months after the season was completed, but we're going to do it. So make sure you're tuned in, and me and Mike will have some fun with that. And we'll obviously take a look into the future of what the 25-26 season might look like. And I don't know, man. Every day I'm starting to think about it more and more, and I'm not really feeling the old playoff, the ending of the playoff drought in 2026. I'm not really feeling it. But all right, so let's continue on with the conversation. Phillies. Let's go back to the comments here. Joe Hale says Brewers have the best record. Okay, so you were looking for the number 1 overall. I don't necessarily need that. I just need a first round bye. That 3 in a row, that call a winning stick has happened before. Yeah. Yes, it has. 3 in a row is a winning streak. No, Jimmy Moore didn't have a home run in 08. Well, I know Blanton did. And you're going to sit there, and I saw what you said. I know Joe Blanton had a homer, but I thought Moyer did too. Or no, wait, Moyer pitched his ass off. Wasn't game 4 Moyer? Wasn't the game that sent it was in Tampa, so it was either 3 or 4. Correct? Am I right about that? Moyer pitched his ass off in Tampa, or was it in Philly? I know he pitched his ass off in one of those games and won it at 45 years old. So I could have sworn he had a home run too. Do I think Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins? Oh, and then I just kind of went on a rant about that. Yeah, I can make a case for both of them getting in, right? If you look at kind of side by side, Rollins might have the edge over Utley because of the MVP and potentially a longer career. But their careers kind of fell apart right at the same time. I mean, neither one of them had really long-lasting staying power, but Utley was able to kind of hang around with the Dodgers in a, in a reduced role, veteran role, World Series champion role. And of course, the infamous takeout slide there was amazing. That's just some great stuff. But you can make a case for both. You can make a case for both getting in, and you probably can make a case for both not getting in. But I don't know. Rollins would be hard not to. I hope they both get in. But again, as I said, I don't think that should have any bearing on why their numbers are not retired. I think it's criminal that 11 and 26 are not retired by the Phillies. And I think that unwritten bullcrap rule that they won't retire your number unless you're a Hall of Famer, I think that's absolutely nonsense. That has nothing to do with your impact for the team while you were there. Nothing. Election into the Baseball Hall of Fame is a national recognition. Why do I have to have that to justify honoring their legacy as Phillies? I shouldn't need that. And, I'm not saying you go out and start retiring numbers willy-nilly. I'm not saying that. But from that 08 team, from that era of Phillies baseball, the only number retired is Roy Halladay. I mean, Roy Halladay was a rental. He didn't really, he had some magical moments here, but I don't feel Roy Halladay as like, a Philly. I really don't. He was gone. He came and gone quick as a viable member of the staff. Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley were homegrown talent throughout the system. They came all the way up. They never played for anybody until later on in their career other than the Phillies. They were drafted. They went up through the Phillies minor league system, and they came through and they did what they had to do for the Phillies. So the fact that 34 is hanging out there because he's in the Hall of Fame posthumously, and I get all that, but the fact that his number's out there and Rollins and Utley aren't, to me is a little criminal. I'm sorry. I'm surprised that Kerkering came in and destroyed the beautiful game that Christopher Sanchez pitched. I am glad he was booed. But listen, Star Wars, before you want to back up on and run over Ryan Kerkering, rightfully so. I won't deny that. What was he doing pitching at that spot in the game? We've already discussed this, right? I thought we had de facto roles for these pitchers now that Duran was here, and that Kerkering does not need to be pitching in the 6th inning, like Matt Strahm doesn't need to be pitching in the 8th. So I get what you're saying. I understand it. But read the room a little bit, Rob Thompson. Kerkering should be pitching back end of the bullpen. He's a setup guy. I think he's still a closer, but I mean, what's he doing pitching in the 6th? Again, I hear what you're saying. You got to perform when you're put in. But once again, Rob Thompson's over complicating this by using Kerkering in the 6th. Am I wrong? Do you guys not see the point I'm trying to make here? I thought we had de facto roles now that we have a closer. I thought everybody now was going to fall into sort of a role. Apparently not. And that's a concern for me. But I understand your trepidation. See how I use that word, trepidation? Moyer pitched his ass off in Philly a day before Cole Hamels started in the World Series. Yeah, he did, man. God, that was a great pickup. Great pickup. It was the 7th. Well, yeah, okay, it was the 7th. It was the 7th. Sanchez didn't finish the 7th, right? He came out 6 1/3, what it was about 7th inning. Again, isn't Kerkering supposed to be pitching in the 8th? I much would rather see Kerkering in the 8th than Jordan Romano in the 8th. I mean, again, am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm not letting him off the hook. All right. He needs to perform no matter where he's at. He needs to do what he's got to do no matter what part of the game he comes in. But why can't we just Put him in the 8th inning. That's the kind of stuff he has. And I saw him today actually on an episode of Carded. You guys ever watch that show, Carded, on MLB Network? Now, this was from a few weeks back. I saw it on YouTube. It was a segment between him. This is funny, actually. Carded is the baseball card show on Major League Baseball on the MLB Network. If you guys haven't checked it out, I record it every time it's on. So check it out. It's pretty cool. It's obviously about baseball cards and collecting and whatnot. But they were at the bank right around the All-Star break. And they did a rip segment with Kerkering, Tom McCarthy, and Nick Abel. This is before the trade. And they were sitting down, ripping open, I believe it was 2025 Topps Heritage set cards. And I think it was Heritage. And they were sitting there talking about it. And obviously Matt Strom came up with his love of sports cards and whatnot. And Kerkering says that he was starting to get into it. And of course, the biggest thrill, and I know this is a thrill, and obviously not all of us have this opportunity, but to actually see your face on a baseball card, I don't care if you spent one day in the MLB or one day in professional baseball. You get into the show for a day, right? That still earns you a card. But to have a baseball card of you, I can't imagine what that feels like, man. That must be the best feeling in the world. Now, Mick Abel, funny enough, we mentioned Mick Abel. He's got his debut card that he had from his first game as a Philly. Part of the uniform and the rookie debut patch that he wore is there. It's an auto relic card of Mick Abel in a Phillies uniform. So I've been on the lookout for that card. So. Seeing how it's uber rare now because he's no longer a Philly. But I just thought I'd bring that up about Kerkering. Sanchez, 12 strikeouts. 12 strikeouts, 100%, but also he labored a bit. 96 pitches through 6 1/3 innings. It's just not going to do it for me. It just isn't. I'm going to pull. You gotta look at that and you gotta be concerned. You have to be. 96 pitches is like 8 innings these days, maybe 7 innings. He labored a bit, but a good effort, a great effort by Sanchez. And in the last 2 nights, the pitching efforts from Suarez and Sanchez give this team and give me a little bit of confidence that maybe it's not so bad without Wheeler. I never said it was going to be without Wheeler. I thought they had enough pitching to weather the storm in the regular season, even with Wheeler being out and potentially Nola being cooked. I still think they have enough pitching to get the job done, what they have to get done regular season wise, as long as the offense can continue using all fields and playing fundamental baseball. But come October, I need Wheeler or Nola. One of them two need to be like in some sort of like way. They need to be able to play and pitch effectively in order for this team to legitimately have a shot at the World Series. And I know it goes against everything I've said about what I think is ailing this team or what I think is holding this team back. I think it's the offense. But honestly, if you don't have Wheeler, and if you don't have a serviceable Nola, I don't know, man. That's going to be a lot harder for them to win a World Series. And that's just the reality. You're taking 2 of your 1 and your 2 out of your rotation. And that's a hard get for any team to have to try to win a World Series without your number 1, number 2, even though you got Sanchez, who's been maybe pitching like a number 2 all season. But you really need to have at least your 1 or your 2 available. Yeah, they have an opportunity tomorrow at the old business person special to do the sweep. That sweepage of the Mariners would be their 7th sweep of the season, which is kind of low. It's really low. They've won 26 series, but they've only swept six times all year. And yeah, Jesus Luzardo will have a much important start tomorrow because trying to keep those good vibes going with those pitchers. You know, Suarez sort of reversed it a little bit the other night or last night. Can Luzardo assuage our angst a bit tomorrow with going out and having a solid effort? Now, a solid effort doesn't necessarily constitute a win, but a solid effort is a solid effort from the pitcher. So Eyes are going to be fixated, rightfully so, at Jesus Luzardo tomorrow at the bank. 1 p.m. start time for those of you that are going to play hooky from work and go to that game. So make sure you send me your best clips from the baseball game if you're there tomorrow. I won't be there. I'll be at a baseball game. Well, later on tomorrow, but not that one. But Phillies 6-4 winners take the series against the Seattle Mariners. Now they are 20 games over 500, 73-53, 12-6 now through the month of August, and playing very encouraged baseball right now, offensively, and that's a good thing. Lefties all series was our starters. Yeah, they went all lefties in this series. They did. They absolutely did. All right, listen, I'm going to transition because I do want to spend a little time talking birds. I do. Let's get the of the night segment out of the way, then we'll get into the Eagles. Yes, sir. The other night segment is coming at you right now, and it's brought to you tonight by, let's do it again, the Clear the Ice 24-25 season review show, Flyers season review show on August 24th at 7 p.m. Of course, the other night segment has been dominated by the Flyers recently and will be for probably the next couple months until we get to October when I start transitioning to Flyers prospects as well. So we're doing spotlight players right now. We're spotlighting Flyer players that we're I think we're going to rely heavily on in 25-26. We've gone through a handful of them. We're going to continue rolling through them here tonight. And our spotlight player of the night is I mentioned it. We've been kind of dinking and dunking around him all the last few nights, but let's finish it up with the let's finish up that core of young players. Let's finish up that core of young established players that Noah Cates, Tyson Forrester, Bobby Brink, Owen Tippett. These are the guys, like it or lump it, are going to be the cornerstone of what the Flyers are building towards in the future. Now, again, I'm not sitting here telling you these are the guys that are going to take you to a Stanley Cup. They are not, but they are going to be part of the reason that they do get to a Stanley Cup. And in the cases of Cates and Forrester, they had significant steps forward last season offensively. Goal production was up. They were getting more and more opportunities. They seem to have figured out a few things. Tippett, again, is Tippett, Mr. Shot wide, but he can figure out how to get the puck on the net. He's going to be a 35 to 40 goal scorer a season, but he just needs to figure out how to get the puck on the net. Which brings us to Bobby Brink, one of the more confusing Flyer players of 24-25, and one of the more intriguing stories going forward. Brink, through 79 games last year, only 12 goals, 29 assists, 41 points, and a putrid -11. And a lot of ways, Brink's game took a step backwards. You know, I gushed a bit about Tyson Forrester, who I was not a big fan of. I still really ain't, but I got to give him the props there. He took a major step offensively forward. Noah Cates as well took major steps offensively forward, but Bobby Brink did not. Bobby Brink took a couple steps backwards last year, both offensively and defensively. His defensive game really suffered. He was made to look foolish a lot of times out there. And I don't know, there were some reports that he was in and out of Tortorella's doghouse, but, you know, that should be nothing new to anybody. I'm sure everybody was in and out of his doghouse at one point, but Bobby Brink is an interesting case study because he needs to be part of this resurgence as well. He needs to. 12 goals ain't doing it for me for Bobby Brink. It's just not working for me. He needs to figure it out. Just really a bad offensive production season from him. I have a lot of hope in Brink, but I also have a lot of hope in Cam York, and both of them had bad seasons last year. And I think Bobby Brink can be a stalwart part of this team. He seemed to have kind of played himself down to that third line. Now, whether or not that third line this year will consist of Forrester, Cates, and Brink like it did for the majority of last year, I don't know, because I can't figure out who the hell the left wing on the second line is right now. So I don't know if they're going to break that line up. There's some speculation that they are going to break that lineup because they got to spread it around the lineup. But if they do decide to go back with that third line intact, and again, that was one of the things that we're going to talk about Sunday night, was that, they didn't make the playoffs. They ended up firing Tortorella. There was, some drama there at the end. But one of the positive things of last season was the emergence of that third line, that Brink, Cates, Forrester line. Brink being maybe the weakest link on that line. Would the Flyers be more beneficial to break that line up? I think in a perfect world, if this team was fully developed and this team was a contender, that would be your third line. That is a prototypical third line in this era of hockey. Forrester, Cates, Brink. That is basically what every team has, that kind of line. But right now the Flyers don't have that sort of latitude. They gotta spread things around. They gotta maximize their talent. And I don't know if they can keep that third line together, but I do think that eventually when the talent does arrive here, and who knows what happens in camp, does Lutsenko make it? Does Barkey make it? Does, are some of those other draft picks, are they going to step into more of a role next year and make this team? Perhaps you can keep that third line together. I don't think you can, not for this year at least. But Bobby Brink needs to figure himself out, and the clock is ticking on him. I know they just re-signed him to his RFA, but that's a no-brainer. They're going to do that. But Bobby Brink's got about 2 or 3 years to really figure it out, or it's time to move on from him. And I just haven't seen enough of him offensively. I haven't seen enough steady progress from him as a developed player. Maybe Rick Tocchet is the voice of reason that'll unlock some of Bobby Brink, and maybe unlocks a lot of other players. But I need to see more from Bobby Brink. I need to see more of a step forward. I don't need to see 40 goals next year, but I do need to see probably about 20. And I need those assist numbers to go up to about 40, and the points obviously to go up, and that plus minus to go down. He needs to get closer to 0 and back on the plus side. But I can say that about every Flyer player, with the exception of the one who's not. I think it was Forrester had a +3. Cates finished with a +3. One of those guys actually finished with a plus. But I just need to see overall more from Bobby Brink's game in 25-26. I need to see a giant step forward in what he brings to bear for the Flyers, because he's very important. He's very important. Forrester's very important. Cates is very important. And Tippett are very important to the success of this team going forward, and they need to continue to develop. And right now, if you're asking me, everyone seems to be about a step ahead of Brink, and Brink needs to kind of close that gap this year. So I'm looking for big things from Bobby Brink, and it doesn't need to be 40 goals. I'm not saying he needs to go from 12 to 40. I need to see more. I need to see at least 20. And that would constitute a step forward with him offensively. His defensive game needs to get a little bit more polished as well. Overall, he just needs to step up forward a little bit. And a very disappointing year for Bobby Brink, but I still hope for him. And, you don't cut ties on a young player that quickly, but I need to see more for Bobby. And that is your of the night segment. Flyers point, Bobby Brink. Go Flyers indeed. Can't wait for hockey to start. Ricky, we got about 6 weeks or so before the regular season begins. I cannot believe it. It's all coming down on us at one time, and it's a great thing. But all right, we're into that latter stage of the show tonight, and I do want to address the Philadelphia Eagles, because it is the 5-meter target. For all you military personnel who know what I'm talking about, 5-meter target is a vernacular that we use when we want to establish your first priority. Concentrate on that 5-meter target. Don't worry about the 300-meter target right now, but we want to knock down that 5 meters. So the Eagles are about 2 weeks away or so and change, 2.5 weeks from the start of their regular season, from the start of their second ever Super Bowl title defense. And I haven't, and it's funny because I do spend some time listening to others, and I do listen to some shows, and I do listen to some people. I just want to kind of gauge the pulse of Eagles Nation. And I know there's a lot of over-the-top expectation and hype about this team, and it is every year. But I don't think I've heard it outright said that the expectation in 2025 is to repeat as Super Bowl champions. And I don't know why I have not heard that. Maybe I'm not listening hard enough. Maybe they are saying it, and I'm not hearing it. But I have not heard it outright said as much as I think I should be hearing it at this point of the season. There's overhype about certain players. There's overhype about certain players, but I haven't really heard much of we are going to win a second Super Bowl. Now, I don't think that people out there are not gunning for that, and I don't think people out there ultimately that is not what their expectation is Super Bowl or bust. I think that's what their expectation is, and I think it's an honest, and I think it's an easy assumption to make. So if we're going to assume that the Eagles' expectation in 2025 is to win a Super Bowl, I have a very simple question. The reality of that expectation, does it match? And the first thing I do want to put to bear, and I mentioned this earlier, is that what I have heard is a lot of fluff about the fact that the Eagles are going to start 2025 essentially the way they ended 2024. And I think that's the wrong mindset to have right off the bat. And that concerns me. And I'm not saying that's what the Eagles, because ultimately it's the team that matters here, not the fans. But the fan base, and where have you heard this before, is setting themselves up for I think a huge reality check. And I'm going to use that word again, reality, when they don't come out the gate the way they came in the gate, so to speak, at the end of 2024. And I fear for that, especially on opening day against the Cowboys. Now, I will reveal, and there's no secret who I think is going to win this game. I think the Eagles will win because, one, I hate the Cowboys, and I will never pick the Cowboys to win anything, especially against the Eagles. So the Eagles could be 0-16. Cowboys could be 16-0 or whatever, 17, whatever it is now. And I would still pick the Eagles to win because I hate the Cowboys. And I'll never pick the Cowboys to win anything. But the reality is, if the Eagles don't go out there, I feel, and completely take the Cowboys apart, and Saquon Barkley rushes for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, defense doesn't force 3 or 4 turnovers, they don't cart Dak Prescott's ass back off the field for another lost season. If something like that does not happen, I fear that this fan base is going to start to panic on week 1. Now, God forbid they lose the game, which I don't think is going to happen. But if they lose the game, then we're really going to start sounding off all kinds of bells and whistles here. So I think the first thing we need to establish when setting ourselves up for a Super Bowl defense run is the fact that this is not 2024 anymore. This is 2025. A lot of things have changed, not only in the Eagles' backyard, but in other teams' backyards as well. Players have come and gone, coaches have come and gone, and we're looking at a whole nother set battlefield. Now, this also concerns me too, because I don't remember, and I'm being honest with you here. This is not old-fashioned Howie Roseman hate. It's not. I'm being honest. I don't remember, and again, I'm going to sit here and fixate on this point, but I can't back it up because I've never looked at this. But I don't remember during the Patriot dynasty, during the 49er dynasties of the 80s, during the Cowboy dynasty of the 90s, and during the Chiefs dynasty of this current era. I don't remember an amount of turnover, especially on the Eagles' defensive side of the ball, that the Eagles have gone through this year. And I don't remember that happening turnover-wise to any of these dynasty teams. And yes, it does concern me. It does. Because I'm concerned that you're not going to be able to find 6 players that contributed the way the 6 players that we lost, that you're going to be able to find 6 replacement players for those 6. Now, I know there's some hope and expectation about some younger players. Jod Campbell's one of those younger players. It's Keely Ringo, I guess, is he still one of those ones that we think is going to be okay? Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Jalex Hunt. There's about 10 names I could probably throw out there that people are pinning on as stepping up and assuming a different role or taking a bigger role. And I'm concerned that it's too much to ask of them in a lot of their year 2, and in Jod Campbell's case, year 1. And I don't think, and I've gone on record by saying this, that the way that Howie Roseman went about this offseason, by jettisoning a lot of these contributors for whatever reason, whether or not they're the right reason or the wrong reason, or it was ultimately the right reason for salary issues, I don't think that was the right thing you do when you're trying to repeat as Super Bowl champions and you're turning your defense over to a bunch of unknowns and what ifs. And again, it could work out. Maybe this is the new NFL landscape, because Howie's been doing this now for a lot of years. Literally taking this thing one season at a time. One season the team is like this, then he breaks it apart, and it comes out the following season they're like that. He's been doing this for a while, and this is the way he does business. And I can't stand it, but whatever. I'm going to get past that. This is not about me bashing on Howie Roseman. This is about the fact that the Eagles may or may not be in the best position they possibly could be to repeat as Super Bowl champions on the defensive side of the football. And I'm going to take defense first. You lost 6 major contributors. And I really want to stress this point, and I'm tired of saying it. And I know that it's going to infuriate the window-licking homers out there to no end, but I'm going to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it. If you try to tell me that there was any other contributing factor that led to this team winning a Super Bowl greater than the defense, we were looking at 2 different football seasons last year. If you take away, or if you reduce what the contribution and what the impact of that defense was going down the stretch, week 9 to the Super Bowl, I think they went into week 9 and they forced 7 turnovers all season. They came into the Super Bowl, I believe, with 31 forced turnovers at that point. That tells me everything I need to know right off the bat there. But if you try to tell me that there's another factor on this football team that was greater than what the defense did in helping out the offense, flipping fields, giving Jalen Hurts the most optimal opportunity to put points up on the board, and then turning Saquon Barkley loose. But if you're trying to tell me that there's something greater than the contributions of this defense, we were watching 2 different seasons. And that is the side of the ball that got pilfered the most. And that concerns me, because I feel that if the defense cannot replicate or be better than they were in 2024, that they're not going to win a Super Bowl. And again, I'm here. If you want to throw out some points, if you want to debate that, if you want to counterpoint that, I'll listen. And I'm being honest. I'm not trying to troll or get clicks or try to, get you pissed off. I am being honest. There's not enough attention that was paid or not enough credit given to that defense coming off that Super Bowl. Everybody wanted to gravitate towards the insane conversation of Jalen Hurts being an elite quarterback. We're totally bypassing the point that the defense, to me, was the number 1 main contributor. Saquon Barkley was number 2, and then Jalen Hurts, to me, was 3. About how important, certain impact areas of this team were in order of winning that Super Bowl. But the defense never got its proper due coming out of 2024. People are going to say, oh, yeah, we recognize that the defense was great. I don't think you do. I honestly don't think you recognize it. And the fact that they lost 6 main parts of that defense, and that's what? Half the defense, essentially? Through either trades or being cut or whatever, or free agency, whatever the case may be. And then you replace it with a bunch of potential draft picks in Jihad Campbell, Keely Ringo, I guess. That might, and then you got Jalix Hunt and you got Trotter, you got those guys from last season that might step up, Sidney Brown, those guys, whatever. And then you added the supplement, the group B and C free agents, to give them some depth. I just don't think that's enough. And now we're seeing it a little bit in preseason. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that I can judge what this team is going to do in 2025 based off of 2 preseason games in 2025? Absolutely not. There's just no way you can say that. But we are intelligent football fans. All of us are. Whether or not you think it or you don't. We're very intelligent football fans, and we know what we're looking at, and we're seeing inside the numbers a little bit. And what we're seeing is not very encouraging. So for the expectation of repeating as Super Bowl champions and the reality of what the defense might be, and again, I say this, it's all speculative. I don't, because we had the same issues with the defense last year. And I remember that. I was a purveyor of it. I said I didn't think the defense had enough. And boy, was I wrong. They had more than enough. They were on a different world by the end of that season. Whether that's from Vic Fangio, whether that's the talent they actually unlocked through Vic Fangio. I think Vic Fangio might obviously get a lot of credit for that, and he's there this year too. So maybe he can yield the Magic a second straight year. And I'm sure that's what everybody's hoping. But it sounds like a lot of ifs, a lot of hoping, a lot of expectation, a lot of potential for a defending Super Bowl champion. And is that the right mindset that we should have about this football team, defensively, mind you? And I'm telling you, and I'm going to stick to my guns on this, if they cannot replicate what they did in 2024 or be better, this team will not win a Super Bowl, regardless of what the offense, because the byproduct of that step back defense is going to be added pressure onto the offense. And the offense at times last year looked amazing, but more times than not, it looked very mid. The passing game is just to the outside. They don't throw the ball to the middle of the field for whatever reason. And again, I'm not bashing Jalen Hurts tonight. This is not what this is about. This is about me regurgitating what I saw. They don't throw the ball to the middle of the field. Now, whatever that reason they don't throw the ball to the middle field is it because they don't trust Dallas Goedert, or he wasn't there for a majority of the season last year? They didn't trust, Jesus Christ, Calcaterra or the other Stoll, where the other tight ends were, whatever, or if it was because they just got too frustrated with Jalen Hurts' inability to read defenses and actually hit those tight windows in the middle of the field and said, you know what, we're not doing that anymore, whatever the reason is. They did not throw the ball to the middle of the field, so they constantly went up top. And you know what? When you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, it works, and it probably will work again this season. But what made the offense special, what made the offense a different type of offense in 2024 was Saquon Barkley, hands down. The man rushed for 30 or 2,500 yards. And I have this little stat here. I used it. I don't know if I still have it up here. There it is right here. Here's Saquon Barkley's contributions to the Eagles offense in 2024. The Eagles offense amassed 6,242 total yards and 53 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley accounted for 22, almost 2,300 of those yards and 15 of those touchdowns. You break it down, he accounted for 37% of the total Eagle offense and 28% of the total touchdowns. Yes, it was an amazing season from Saquon. It was a record-setting season. And yes, I'm still upset that he never got the rushing title. But can you expect that to happen again? And if it doesn't happen again, or if it's less than that, that puts more pressure on Jalen Hurts, that puts more pressure on a very one-layered passing attack. And if they're shutting the run down, eventually they're going to do stuff to shut down the passing attack. And then if you force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball to the middle of the field, something he did not demonstrate he, one, was allowed to do last year, or two, he could do effectively when doing it. Again, prior to the epiphany of week 4, when they reinvented the wheel on their offense, Jalen Hurts was throwing interceptions in abundance. Then they took that responsibility away from him. They ground pounded, and it worked amazingly. If for some odd reason Saquon Barkley is not as effective as he was in 2025 or 2024, or somebody finds a way to stop him, what does that spell for the rest of the offense? And what did you see from the rest of the offense that makes you believe that they'll be fine when they have to hand it over to Jalen Hurts? Now, a byproduct of that happening would be, once and for all, we can put to bed this Jalen Hurts elite quarterback nonsense. But that's not what I'm trying to do in 2025. I don't want to put that story to bed. I don't care about that. I want to win a Super Bowl. Are the Eagles in the best possible position to repeat as Super Bowl champions, with the defense undergoing as much change as it did, and then the offense relying upon, let's face it, Saquon Barkley to rush for 2,500 yards in 2025? Is that Did Howie Roseman do enough? Or did he do the wrong thing? Or did he bring in the wrong guys? Or did he let the wrong guys go? Very speculative. And in about 2.5 weeks, we're going to start getting the answers to these questions. So to sit here and blanket statement just across the board, oh, they're winning the Super Bowl, is insulting to the rest of the Eagles fans out there, because we're better than that. We're a better fan base than that. We understand the pain of losing. At least I do. We understand that the arduous road that is a Super Bowl championship is not one that every team undertakes successfully. There's still a bunch of teams out there that have never won a Super Bowl. And we also understand it's extremely special and extremely rare to repeat, and that nobody is giving them anything in 2025. Teams are going to come at the Eagles with their best shot, because it's now time to knock off the champ. Are the Eagles prepared for that? Both mentally, physically, they have the right people, they have enough depth. And more importantly, is the Eagle fan base prepared for that? And I go back to 2018 as a sort of a, tester there. I fell into that trap in 2018. I fell into the trap that, this is just a continuation of 2017. We're just going to come out there and we're going to continue to do what we did. Nick Foles is going to pick up where he left off. Then when Carson Wentz comes back, it'll all be fine. And it wasn't. 2018 was a sticky year, up and down all season long. Finally, they made a run at the end there because Nick Foles went back in as a starter. Are we setting ourselves up as a fan base for some very painful reality lessons? And is the expectation that this team should win a Super Bowl, does it match the reality of what was done or not done in the offseason? And were the right changes made? And I haven't even talked about the offensive coordinator change. There's a lot of changes, a lot of ifs, a lot of potential. And is that what you want to see from a team that's on the verge, potentially, of being a dynasty? 2.5 weeks from now, we're going to find out. And I'm going to be along for the ride with everybody else, enjoying it and being critical and bashing people along the way. I will. Little disclaimer there. But have they done enough? Now, not talking about it, especially from that homer side of the fan base, could be speaking volumes about how concerned they really are. Because a homer won't talk about things like that. That's some sort of code they all have where they can't bash the team. It's an interesting code, one that I don't really understand, but they can't speak their mind. It's almost like being in a cult. And I said this before. I deeply am empathetic to all the homers out there, and I want to help. I'm actually a friend to the homers. I'm a friend. I will get you the help you need to come out of the cult. I'll get you a deprogrammer who comes along with the van. He'll take you to the warehouse, do what he's got to do to snap you out of it before the cops come. I will do those things for you. I will be by your side through your rehabilitation process. All you have to do is speak up, and I'm here for you. Now, coming out of your homer trance doesn't take you away from being a fan. No, it just opens your eyes up to all aspects of fandom. It makes you more of a well-rounded fan, actually. 100%. So, again, if there's any homers out there, and this is my PSA for the night, and you want help, and you're suffering either in silence or not, MattyB's here, and I'm listening, and I will help you. Reach out to me on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Reach out to me through our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube, our TikTok, which apparently is raging. Thank you, Pat Bernard. Reach out to me, and I will be there for you, and I will pull you out of the darkness. I am not going to not make you an Eagles fan. I'm going to make you a more well-rounded Eagles fan. So please, if you're out there and you're a homer and you're suffering and you're crying for help, I'm here. Just reach out. I am a friend to all homers. But to wrap up my little spiel, being grounded in the reality that is the arduous journey to a Super Bowl championship that everybody feels at this stage of the season they are capable of doing. And of course, not all of them are. I just want us to be more centered on that. And I don't want to get distracted by the other things that are going to distract this team. The Jalen Hurts conversation will dog this team all season long. And again, as I said, I personally do not feel he's elite. I don't feel he's elite at all. I feel that he's a very good quarterback. He's a capable quarterback. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's perfect for the job he has if they don't put too much on him to do. Now, whether or not Saquon Barkley, and that's probably going to be the biggest tell to that. If Saquon Barkley has enough tread left on the tires, and again, that's all speculative. But if they have to put too much on Jalen Hurts, then yes, I think that spells doom for the offense. But if they leave Jalen Hurts in the role that he has right now, benefactor of a defense that was flipping the ball over so many goddamn times, and Saquon Barkley, who was running up and down the field like a knife through hot butter. If we can continue those vibes, Jalen Hurts will be fine, and the rest of the offense will be fine. But if something derails that, if the defense sputters, Saquon is not as effective as he was last year, and then you have to put that extra pressure on Jalen Hurts, I don't think he can perform that way because I don't think he's elite. And again, it's not a bad thing. I mean, not everybody has an elite quarterback. Matter of fact, there's only 2 that I know of currently in the NFL. So is the reality of the expectation, does it match? And then 2.5 weeks, we're going to find out. So I had to get that off my chest. I had to speak my mind, hopefully for the last time. Maybe I can now move on and we can start looking at the X's and O's of football. But thank you for allowing me to vent. Let's finish this bad boy up. Alrighty. This is the final segment of every show. It's the MattyB card review segment. This is the time of the show where I sit back and I, we talk a little bit about my sports cards, about sports cards in general, mine specifically. I always like to show a sports card, talk about it, and then actually show you the card. Proves that I know what I'm talking about, or proves at least I have it, right? That gives me a little bit more validity than just talking about it. But we've been on the modern era, the non-wax pack era of Topps baseball cards. Tonight, we're getting back into the wax packs era because at this time, it's changed it up a little bit. We've been stuck on that 2020 or 2019, 2018 through 2025 for a little while. So we're going to jump way back to that vaunted 1987 Topps, one of the probably the most well-distributed Topps set in the world right now. I mean, you can find cards from that set everywhere. In every corner of the world, there's an 87 Topps baseball card laying in some kid's bedroom. I'm telling you, man. I actually saw one in Afghanistan. No, I never did. But my point is, it's a very widely distributed set. Now, with that comes some financial downfalls, right? The more of something, the less valuable it is because people have more access to it. So a lot of the cards in the 87 Topps set are not as valuable as they should be. And there's some big names out of that 87 set. Obviously, Bonds, McGuire, Canseco are the headliners from that set. But there's some lesser known players that have gone on to have some pretty decent careers too. But their cards are, Bo Jackson's another big card from that set. His rookie card is from 87 Topps. So there's a lot of decent players in that set that are not getting their due because of the widely distributed variety of the Topps 87, as well as the massive manufacturing problems that arose with the 87 Topps. Now, we know that in the card world, you have cards that are known as error cards, right? They come out with either the wrong, a wrong name or a period missing, or in some cards, the wrong back to the front. There was massive error card issues in 87, probably more so in 87 than in any other set of baseball cards, period, in the course of human history. What also was a problem with the 87 was their cutting issues. Now, Back in the day when these cards would come off the assembly line, they come off in a big sheet and they would be cut by a machine. Well, whoever was apparently they had some real winners working in Topps in '87 because through with the error problems and then the cutting issues, Topps '87 has taken on a whole other like reality. But when a card comes off the sheet cut wrong, you would think that that's as valuable as, say, an error card. It's not. It's actually less valuable. Matter of fact, it almost makes the card worthless. And there's thousands of Topps '87 cards floating around out there that were cut wrong off of the bench. And those cards are utterly worthless. It doesn't make them more valuable. It actually hurts their value because of a mechanical error, not a human error, apparently. Apparently, I don't know. It's a weird way how they configure that. But the '87 Topps is the epitome or the poster child of just a badly produced set of baseball cards. And there's so many of them out there. It's probably, again, the most widely distributed set in Topps history. They're everywhere. And tonight, we are going to feature a card from that '87 series. Now, this is a card from a player who's a Hall of Famer. And in my opinion, the third best third baseman to ever play the game, behind Brooks Robinson and, of course, the ultimate best third baseman ever played the game, Mike Schmidt. And this was a player that mirrored Schmidt's career. Now, he was in the American League. Schmidt was in the National League. So they never really kind of did battle together, except in 1980. And Schmidt won that battle. Now, this individual's career lasted longer than Schmidt's by a few years. And again, I mentioned he is in the Hall of Fame. And he's infamous for one of the most famous scenes ever to unfold on a baseball diamond in my lifetime. And that I had the privilege of watching live just because I was watching the game that afternoon. The pine tar incident that occurred between the Royals and the Yankees back in 1983, 4, 5, around there. And of course, I speak of the legendary, the Hall of Famer, and the legendary Kansas City Royal, Mr. George Brett. And here we go. Here is George's '87 Topps. Now, this card is not an error card. And this card also is not improperly cut. This card is actually pretty good. I mean, there's a little centering problems with this card. It's not completely on center. Now, of course, this is the iconic '87 Topps with the wood grain paneling borders. One of the things that, Topps kind of figured out as they were going through this, stop wasting time on borders, stop wasting, resources on trying to make a border. Let the player be the card, and that's kind of what the theme of Topps is now. But back in '87, nothing says the '87 baseball season than the wood paneling bordered '87 Topps baseball cards. And this is George Brett's. Now, George Brett broke into the league or in the Major League Baseball in 1972. So this is by far not his rookie baseball card. Matter of fact, this is sort of the second half of his career. But it's still actually, for a Hall of Fame player, an '87 Topps, a pretty valuable card. I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen this card range anywhere between 77 cents to about $45 as a PSA 10. And that's pretty impressive, if you ask me, for an '87 Topps baseball card. Now, I have multiple versions of this card, but they all have the same problem. Every single George Brett '87 Topps I own is cut wrong. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that here in a second. But my '87 Topps George Bretts are cut wrong. The one I'm going to show you tonight is not one of the worst. It's by no means the worst cut, but it's definitely got an imperfection. You can see where it was cut wrong. But again, this card ranges anywhere between 77 cents and about $35. I'm tempted to actually post one of these cards or throw one of these cards out there and charge about $7-8 to see if I get any hits. There is a large fan base or a large collector fan base out there that still covets anything George Brett. And George Brett baseball cards are still in production today. They heritage cards or veteran committee cards. You'll see a George Brett float up there every now and again. But this is his '87 Topps, and George Brett, the name, is still pretty marketable, and even in the '87 Topps version. So there you go. Let me take this off the screen, and I will show you. This is my '87 George Brett. Now, if you take a look at the border on this side right here, I can see it maybe you'll see it better on the back. You can see how the one side of it's got some girth to it in terms of the border or the edges, and the other side is cut really thin. Well, that's an example of an improperly cut baseball card. Now, there's more obvious examples of badly cut baseball cards floating around out there from 87 Tops, and I actually own a few of them, and I've shown them in shows past, and I'm sure I'll continue to show them as we move forward. But this is an improperly cut baseball card. But I'm be very curious of how much I could probably get for this card. And I might try that as an experiment one night. But there you go. MattyB's card review, the 87 George Brett. And that's going to take us to the end of another productive program here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. The final word, another one in the books tomorrow. I will be back for the post-game show. So the Titans final, it's going to be coming on at around 9 o'clock at night. I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't get it in at 4. I got to be somewhere, and I'm going to be there till about 8. So I'm going to do the better late than never version of the post-game show tomorrow, and that will be also counting as the final word. So no final word tomorrow, just the post-game show. But I'll be back with this show on Thursday night as we'll wrap up the week, and a pretty productive week if we can get 4 shows in based on where I've been. So that's looking positive. I want to wish you guys a great night. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for joining in. I think we had a very productive conversation, and let's keep it going. Make sure you're tuned into the network, like, share, subscribe, all those great things. Make sure you're continuously watching. New stuff is coming out. We're always looking for new talent too. If you're out there and you think you got what it takes to go toe-to-toe with me, not really, but you're not going to go toe-to-toe with me. But if you think you got what it takes and you want to dedicate yourself to this, and I mean that, and I mean that very, very bluntly, because a lot of people have come up to me and say, I want to do this. This is, I can talk sports till I'm blue in the face. I can do this all, that's great. But when it starts to become a weekly, daily, bi-weekly, however long you're going to do a show, when you have to start coming up with material every night or every week, it does start to take its toll. And I've seen people flake out of this thing early on because they just don't have, they don't have what it takes. They don't have the it factor. But if you think you do have it, reach out to me. We're always looking for new talent, new shows, new content. And we're looking to give the next person their shot. Somebody gave me my shot, and I'm looking to do the same for somebody else. So reach out to me on any of the platforms or email, itsarapsports@gmail.com. All that stuff. It's all running down there on the scroll. So reach out. If you want to get involved, I'll listen, and we'll go from there. So till we talk again, guys, you have a great night and a better tomorrow.